What's up everyone, it's Kelly and I'm back for another vlog. I feel like I never know what to say to start these videos, but I recently did a vlog where I was talking to you guys about a bunch of books that I have been reading recently, and you guys seem to like the book content, and I honestly love sharing book content with you. Reading is one of my passions. So I mentioned in the last video that I want to start doing wrap-up videos where I talk about all of the books that I have read that month and do that each month. But since I already talked about a lot of books that I read in August, I didn't want to do another video about August reads. So I am going to be starting that for September reads, but for now I found something else that I thought could be pretty cool, and that is the mid-year book freakout tag. This is basically just a bunch of questions that people answer on YouTube, and I haven't found the original person who did this. I found sources saying it was a specific person, but that person does not have this video on their channel. So I'm not really sure where this originated from, but it's 14 questions all about the books that you have read so far this year and what you're excited about reading this year, and I thought that could be a little bit fun. And I am aware that it is not the middle of the year. It is now September, which means we only have 4 months left of the year, but I still thought it could be fun to go over, share with you guys what I've been enjoying, what I've been hating, and what I'm excited for the end of the year. So I'm just gonna read them and then I'm gonna answer them, because that's how questions and answers work. Just so you guys know, I don't physically own like 99% of the books I read. I get all of my books from the library, and I'll either read the hardcover book from the library or I will read it on the library app on my phone. And I also don't listen to audiobooks because I struggle to follow those. So I don't have any of those books. So I'm just gonna put an image up of each book that I'm talking about so you guys can see a nice little visual of the books I'm talking about, because I don't know about you guys, but I do like judging books by their cover. So maybe you can do that too. So just for reference, so far in 2020, I've read 50 books, which is a lot. And I'm gonna be using my Goodreads to reference stuff that I've read, because I've read so many books that I kind of forget how I feel about certain stuff. So I'm just gonna be like looking through this. Of course, you guys are welcome to follow me on Goodreads. I'll put a link in the description of the video so you guys can check out what I'm reading, what I'm enjoying. But yeah, let's just get started with these questions. So question number 1 is best book you've read so far in 2020. So my absolute favorite read so far this year, like the book that I knew was 5 stars as I was reading it and I really enjoyed like every single bit of it, was Cress by Marissa Meyer, which is actually the 3rd book in the Lunar Chronicles series, which has 4 books in it. I talked a little bit about it in my last vlog, where it's just the 4 different books are a twist on 4 different like classic fairy tales. And I think that's such a really cool concept, but it's also really fun because it's about cyborgs and it's about tensions between people who live on the earth and people who live on the moon, and it's just like a whole crazy story, and it evolved way past what I thought it was, which was incredible. But I would say the 3rd book, Cress, is like where it hit its stride, and I was so excited just reading it. Like I was just dying to like keep going. There were a lot of moments where characters that we had been introduced to in different situations were like so close to each other, and I was just like, oh my god, they're gonna run into each other, it's gonna be amazing. That just, I don't know, that was so exciting for me. So it was a really thrilling read. That 3rd book is actually based off of Rapunzel, which I'm not a fan of Rapunzel, and I'm not a fan of like, I don't even know much about Rapunzel. I mean, I know the basics, but it's like so much more than that. I have a hard time describing it, but it was really an incredible read. I loved it. Okay, so the next question is best sequel you've read so far in 2020. That is a very easy answer. That's The Wicked King by Holly Black, which is the 2nd book in the Folk of the Air trilogy. And this is another book that I actually talked about on this channel. I ended up picking up the 1st book, The Cruel Prince, and the 2nd book, The Wicked King, literally right before this pandemic started, because I knew that the library was going to close, so I just picked up a bunch of books. When I read the 1st book, I did not like it. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was young. I complained about it a little bit in a vlog, and honestly, if it weren't for me only having those books from the library to read, because the library ended up closing, I would not have continued. But I did end up continuing, and I read The Wicked King, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. It was so good. So if you guys haven't heard of this trilogy before, it's basically about this girl Jude and her twin sister, who are humans living in the land of fairy, where Basically, fairies do not like humans. They treat them as like less than, but there is one guy who is a prince who is especially cruel. That's really all I can say, because again, this story just like completely evolves and it's wild. So I thought the first book was a little young, second book, fantastic, third book, also fantastic. But that sequel really did it for me. All right, the next question is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. I have a lot of books that I want to read that are new releases. I keep a very updated list on Goodreads, so let me scroll through and see which ones I'm most excited about. Oh, this is one that I'm actually really excited about. It's called The Vanishing Half by Bennett. I don't know too much about this. It's about these twins, and at the age of 16, they run away from their small black southern community, and they kind of just live completely separate lives. And then I believe they both have daughters, and then their daughters cross paths, so it's like kind of a generational where like the actions of the parents affect the children. And it just sounds really cool because one of them just completely disowns that community, and the other one is kind of embracing her identity. So I think that sounds really interesting. And I also love stories where people in different circumstances, like the exact same person in separate circumstances, like what they would do. And I feel like with twins that's kind of a similar thing. So I don't know, I'm excited about that. Hasn't been available in my library yet, but I'll hopefully read it soon. Next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. That is another easy one, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab. This one, as far as I'm aware, I don't know too much about it and I don't want to go into it knowing too much, but as far as I'm aware, it is about a woman in the 1700s who makes a deal with the devil to live forever, but she is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. The story starts, I guess, when she meets somebody who remembers her. This is coming out in October. I'm super excited. I ordered a special edition like book box for it, and it was super expensive. And I'm not the type of person to pay for a book that I haven't read yet, because I really only like buying books that I already know I love. But I do love Victoria Schwab. I love her writing, and apparently it's like a signed special edition book and it comes with all this extra stuff. So I'll do an unboxing of that because I'm excited for it. So we'll see how that goes. So next question is biggest disappointment of the year. And I actually have two books that I gave 1 star to, and they were both like really highly anticipated books that a lot of YouTubers were talking about and super excited about, and so I was super excited about them, and then I ended up just being like really angry that I wasted my time with them. The first of which was the worst, and that was Serpent and Dove. I would actually say that is my least favorite book I have ever read, and I don't say that lightly. It was just so bad. I thought it was poorly written. I thought the plot was terrible and just full of holes. I feel like just the whole premise of it was stupid, and it was making me so angry. But even like a dumb plot sometimes I feel like can be saved with likable characters, but I feel like none of the characters were likable. It was so annoying. That was just like, I don't know, it felt like pandering. When he was like, oh man, evil, girl, good, strong girl. There was this one joke that kept getting repeated, and it was not even a funny joke. And like, I don't know who this book was for. I don't know who the audience is that likes this, but people on YouTube are still talking about how amazing this book is, and apparently there's a sequel that's coming out or has come out, and everyone's so hyped about it. I don't know if I don't understand. I have no idea why people like that book. So I gave it 1 star. I said it was the worst book that I've ever read in my life, and I'm standing by that. The second disappointment was The Beautiful by Renee, Adieh, and I talked at length about this in my books that I read in April vlog, so I won't get into it now, but I will say that one wasn't as bad as Serpent and Dove. It was just a case of overwriting. Like, I feel like that whole book could have just been the prologue to a good book. It was all just a setup for the next book, which, I mean, I guess you could say all books kind of are. It was more like nothing really happened until like the last few pages of the book. And then those last few pages, I was like, oh, I would read that book, but I would need it to start at those last few pages. So yeah, it was just overwriting. But there was one thing that I wrote in my review that I thought was kind of funny. I don't remember writing this, but I was very angry when I finished this one too. But I wrote, "This is the most extreme example of overwriting that I've ever seen in my life. We do not need pages and pages of description of a meal that the main character sees someone else eating in the distance." And then I went on to say, "That alone was almost enough to make me put the book down, but some perverse part of me insisted on finishing it just to prove to myself that I could trudge through the endless chapters of meaningless BS." I like to write reviews on Goodreads just to get it out of my head and put it out somewhere. And I am a very harsh book reviewer, I will admit that. I try not to go into books with big expectations, but sometimes books are just so hyped up that, you know, you can't help but be excited, and then it ends up being just a letdown. I think I was just really disappointed in that book in particular because I'm a big vampire book fan. You know, the vampires didn't even happen until the end of the book, so it was like, it felt like it wasn't a vampire book. Next question is the biggest surprise of 2020, and that would be The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. I was just talking about the third book, but yeah, I just thought those were really great. And the funny thing is, and I've mentioned this before, I have had the first book of that series on my to-read list since 2015, and I just didn't read it for so long because, I don't know, I thought it was gonna be kind of boring, and I was like not that enthused about it, but it ended up being one of the best series. Like, I'm actually gonna buy this one because I want to reread them. I thought they were fantastic. I really enjoyed them. Next question, favorite new author, either a debut author or new to me. And that would be Marissa Meyer, who wrote the Lunar Chronicles. Not only did I enjoy the Lunar Chronicles, but then I immediately picked up another one of her series, which is the Renegades trilogy. I'm on the second book now, and it's also been very enjoyable. I really love her writing style, so I'm really vibing with her right now. And I know she has another book called Heartless, which I'm going to be reading after I finish with the Renegades trilogy. So very, very good writing. I'm very into her right now. All right, next question is newest fictional crush. This one's, I feel like this one's a hard one because I don't really have fictional crushes as much as an adult as I did when I was younger. When I was younger, I feel like I definitely fell in love with characters, but I feel like as an adult, I don't really like fall in love with them. So I guess, I mean, the closest I guess would be Carden from the Folk of the Air trilogy, because, you know, he was a very flawed character and I really enjoyed reading that. And I also just, he was pretty smooth, so I liked the way he was. Next question is newest favorite character. And again, I feel like I don't really latch on to too many characters. I mean, I do every once in a while, but there haven't really been any in 2020 that I've like totally loved and like felt super connected to. There were characters like last year I read some books and I was like, man, I just want to read more about this person, but I haven't really experienced that this year. Although maybe Carden, again, I don't know. He was pretty fun. Next question, a book that made you cry this year. Let me look through my Goodreads. I feel like there haven't been many books that made me cry this year. Oh, actually, okay. The Toll by Neal Shusterman, which is the third book in the Arc of a Scythe trilogy. That one actually made me cry. The ending of that book. Oh, I'm getting chills actually just remembering it. That was a good trilogy. And again, that was like one of the ones where the first book in the trilogy, I was like, this is okay. And then the second book, I was like, oh, this is good. And then the third book, I was like, oh, this is great. And then the end, I was like, oh my gosh, like just crying. That was a really good series for me. Next question is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. So I bought an Owl Crate subscription box, which is like a book subscription box where you get a special edition of a book and then also some other goodies. And in that I got a book called All the Stars and Teeth, which I actually haven't read yet, but the special edition cover of it is really, really beautiful. So I am excited to read it. I'm trying not to get my hopes up again because I feel like I don't want to let myself down, but the cover is really beautiful. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? So I have been trying to read Nevernight by Jay Kristoff for a really long time. That one I'm definitely going to read, hopefully this or next month. I actually finally have the library book. I originally tried to read it on the library app on my phone, but the book has footnotes in it, so I had to keep on like scrolling to the next page, and then I like accidentally spoiled a couple of things in the beginning, and I was like, okay, I need to read the physical paper book of this so I can just have a bookmark at the end and just flip. And then the library was closed for months, and now the library is back open, so I did end up grabbing it, but I'm like worried that I'm gonna really like it and they don't have the sequel. So I don't want to read the sequel on my phone, so I'm like, I keep procrastinating reading it, but I know I really want to read it this year, hopefully, like I said, in the next couple of months. All right, last question is, what's your favorite book to movie adaptation that you've seen this year? And I don't think I've watched any movies that were books this year. I don't really watch movies too often. I used to be a huge movie person. Now I'm a TV series person. So I really have only watched a handful of movies this whole year, and I don't think any of them were adaptations from books. So I don't have an answer for that one. But yeah, so that is how 2020 has been so far for reading and how I'm looking forward to the future. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I know it was just like a quick little fun video about books and stuff. As always, I'm very happy to take your book recommendations, so you can always leave them in the comments. And again, I'll put my Goodreads in the description so you guys can check that out if you're curious to read some of the synopses of the books that I've mentioned, or if you want to see my scathing reviews. Just kidding. They're usually nicer than that. Some books just made me irrationally angry. But yeah, so that is it, and I'll do a wrap-up video where I talk about all the books that I read in September at the end of the month, so stay tuned for that too. And yeah, that's it. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next video.